No kidding.
Senator, Lori's checking your passport. We're going to find out.
Is it? Because we're going to sing happy birthday at the beginning.
Does that make you nervous that she can just pull that up?
Tammy Dyser's birthday is today, too. We're on. Committee meeting will come to order. We're trying to figure out whose birthday is today, so we'll do some research on that, and we'll sing happy birthday in a little bit. While I'm researching whose actual birthday it is, happy birthday, Tammy. I know it's yours if you're listening. I think we're ready to listen from the governor's office, and I got a couple questions as we go through, Adam, or at the end, 1 and 2, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, so I'm ready for you to begin if you're ready to begin.
I'm ready. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, Adam Gresham and the governor's office. Appreciate you letting me be here in the midst of birthday celebrations. This is a good thing for to be able to do so. Hey, I just want to thank you all for your time. I know that this is something that's laborious, the budget process, perhaps even this presentation that I'm doing, but Governor Kehoe certainly understands and respects the role that you have, the Senate has, the House has in the budget process, so I understand that, so I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to talk to you today and present the governor's office budget. Current staffing in the governor's office is 29, so whenever I say current staffing, that includes the office upstairs as well as the mansion. As I mentioned last year, our office is structured just a little bit differently than the previous administration. I don't say that as an indictment, other than to say that we just made a decision, the governor made a decision, we're going to focus more on policy, so we have a few more policy staff rather than just one particular policy person as the previous administration had. And I guess history will tell, but I feel that that is serving the office well. 2 changes that you'll note from the budget last year. One of which is we reallocated 3 positions from the governor's office to the mansion to reflect where they're actually working. So we wanted you all to be able to open up the budget book and see where personnel are allocated. So you'll see that we went from 35.5 in the governor's office to 32.5, but those 3 were moved over to the mansion. They're in mansion operating. That's where they work, and so we wanted to be able to reflect accurately what you're doing, or what we wanted you to be able to see what we're actually doing. So, and then the other change is that we did a core reduction of $500,000 in the governor's office. So we have asked departments to make similar changes, and we thought it was appropriate that we do so as well within the office. So from that is the difference in terms of what we've changed and what you have before you from last year. Again, if you flip to mansion operating, you'll see that that is now representative 5. That is 3, again, those 3 reallocated positions from the governor's office to better reflect what we're doing. Flipping to National Guard and Emergency, this is a core item that exists to allow the governor to activate the Guard during state emergencies. As you all are very well aware, we've had 5 federally declared disasters since Governor Kehoe came into office on the 13th of January. The Guard has been used to a certain degree in most all of those, but that's what this line allows us to do. It allows us to pay for those actual expenses while we're there, while the Guard is in use.
That's question number 1. Since
Yes,
you
sir.
spent some time on that, how are we getting along with this fund this year with these emergencies that went along? How much of it is?
What I have is the number, and up through January the 30th, we had spent $63,457 as of January the 30th. And with this most recent snowstorm, we did have some Guard that were activated, so that number will be increased. But purely from a cash flow standpoint or from the budget availability, we are very, very good, and there's plenty of appropriation authority left there. I don't know what this spring will hold. Last spring caught us, starting March 15th, caught us off guard, and that went through May, and it just was one thing after another. So my expectation, unless the weather changes or unless something crazy changes, that we'll have some more things that happen this spring. I'd love to be wrong on that. Nothing would please me more than to be wrong on that. But I suspect that we will. And in those instances, depending upon the severity of them, depending on where they go, the Guard is a force in readiness, and we will use them as we need to.
Thank you.
Okay, going on to special audits, we have this flexibility. We have no intent to use it, but I appreciate having the flexibility. At this point, we have no intent to use it. I appreciate the flexibility and would certainly ask the committee to consider giving us that as well. The Ag Resiliency Fund, this was set up at the end of the previous administration, and it allows unspent National Guard money to be transferred into a fund to support ag-related disasters. The most immediate one kind of that we've seen and are still tend to be under the rock, I think, of it is drought. We have not made any transfers. There's not any money in that fund balance. But I think that this was a good idea, the way that it was set up, to allow us, if we need to, we can move some of those, we can transfer some of that money to help support ag-related disasters. Again, I have no plan for that. The governor has no plan for that at this point. I'm not even sure. We haven't done it yet, so I'm not 100% sure what that would look like. But that is, you'll see that ag resiliency tab in your budget. And the last two tabs just go through job classifications within the governor's office. So that is my presentation, and certainly welcome any questions that you may have, or you or the members of the committee may have.
Okay, you answered my second one on the ag fund. So, yes, Senator Nuremberg.
Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Senator.
Thanks for being with us this morning on this wonderful morning as we celebrate Senator Fitzwater's birthday as well. Adam, one of the things that you shared and certainly appreciate was that as you were asking departments to make some changes, your office also made some changes, and I understand you cut your budget by $500,000 as well, or those are the recommendations, correct? Is that what you shared?
Yes, ma'am.
By $500,000, okay. Would you walk us through a little bit as to what the governor's office asked of our departments in terms of making those changes?
Sure. We did, in conjunction with Dan's office, the budget, Dan Hogg's office, I'm sorry, the budget office, we asked departments to do a 10, 15, and 20% exercise, just asking them to take a look at the budgets that they have and walk through what would be some recommendations that you have at those levels. And so that was the exercise that we did and looked through.
Okay, and then when did that process start?
Oh, gosh, I think we probably would have started, I couldn't tell you exact, late summer, early fall. Budgets are due to the budget office on October the 1st, and so it had to have been.
So those conversations, though, then started what, August, September?
I think that's fair. My inclination is probably August timeframe.
Okay, and then the departments, when they submitted their recommendations, did they submit them at what threshold then? Was asked to, at the 10, at the 15, at the 20, or did it just vary?
Each of those. So we asked for each of those scenarios.
Okay. But then when they were officially submitted, what we saw in October as the department request came out.
And then what we did, the department request came out, then we went through, that was part of what we used as we worked through the budget, and starting in October, as budget planning worked through that, we used that again as we worked through November and December on formulating the budget, which was presented to you in the State of the State.
Okay. So, and I ask all of this because obviously proposed scenarios or changes that even the departments came up with or your office came up with in August could be very different from now what we see in terms of where revenues stand. But now that we're in February, I'm just very curious as to if any of those, as we're looking at things, if there's any changes as to if there are better alternatives. So obviously, as we're going through the different departments and we see overall the recommendation of cutting $600 million in operating expenses, some of the things that came out yesterday, I think I heard some pretty hearty support for not making certain cuts for Department of Health and those rate cuts. That's a tough pill to swallow, right, for all of our communities. And so I'm just curious as to there are other areas as we're going through that it's like, okay, maybe we can tighten our belt a little more over here versus over here, right? In terms of, and I think it gets to the question, and that's what we have to decide as those who hold the purse strings as to what are those fundamental services that we're going to prioritize, right? But again, it's just, I think it's important for us to understand what the governor's office was asking of our departments and to see those alternatives. I think that's what I feel like I'm just curious as to what else is there, because a lot of times that isn't, we haven't seen those documents, for example. We don't have a good understanding as, are there better alternatives versus what the departments perhaps propose and then what your office ultimately recommended. So can you kind of share anything, any insight or any response to any of that?
Well, I would say that we continue to watch the budget on a daily basis. And so we use that data to, it at least informed the budget that the governor presented. We'll continue to watch that. But it's information that we use throughout we used it then, we'll continue to use it. Whatever this body and the House and what is ultimately done in conference committee, I guess, to put a budget, a final budget that is passed, we'll continue to use that data too as we look at it in terms of as the governor makes decisions for signing a balanced budget.
And your office, and again, in conjunction, obviously, with Dan, is already looking at those restrictions, right? So the executive summary of the budget is presented, and you all are already telling us, these are the funds we plan to restrict, correct?
Sure, that's in some instances, yes.
Okay. And have there been, which is different, I mean, that's new, I think, and I don't know if that happened back, again, the last time we had a downturn in the economy. I think fiscal year 2010 was the last time that we saw some substantial cuts. But again, looking at those withholds, I think it's interesting too that we're going to appropriate this money, or if the decision is to appropriate the money, but already telling us now we're going to withhold this amount, and then we're going to balance our budget anticipating this amount of lapse, all of those type of things. It's, again, just different. So again, I just am looking for some clarity as to other possible scenarios for cuts outside of, I think, what we've seen so far. So, okay.
Understand. Was there?
A question there? I don't
yeah.
know. Just
Okay.
just sharing my thoughts, Adam, as
I understand.
trying to get some understanding as to what was asked of our departments when that timeline. Because again, I think looking at things right now, we're doing okay, quite frankly. Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Adam.
Yes, sir.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you. Thank you all.
Yeah. When I figure out who the birthday person is, I'll
All right.
send you a text.
That'd
You
be
can
great. I'd love to know.
Please send them a ho-ho or
It's not me.
cupcake.
It's not my birthday.
Only one candle. We don't want any alarms go off in the building.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you, what do I leave it here?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
Committee members,
you.
Thank you.
Next, Department of Economic Development. Director, thank you very much for being here this morning. Appreciate your time and the
Yes.
other time that you spent trying to help educate me, and we know that will be a never-ending process.
Well, we're all learning. Same here, right? So, thank you guys, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the time today. My name is Michelle Hadaway. I'm the director for the Missouri Department of Economic Development. Kind of a high-level overview of our budget. 93% of the budget you will see that's presented to you today is federal spending, the majority of that being broadband at $1.7 billion. We've got BJ Tanksley here. If you guys have any questions, he's happy to answer that. You will also see core cuts within our E&E ranging anywhere from 4% to 14% per division. Again, I will go through those. And then you will see several core reductions of one-time funding totaling over $73 million. So I will go through those. And if you guys have any questions, just stop me as we go, okay? Okay, so if we can start on page 2, you're going to see a core reduction of E&E for Regional Engagement Division at $29,404,000 on page 26. Oh, and I should say, I'm sorry, as requested, I'm just going to go through new decision items and core reductions. But if you have any additional questions, we're happy to answer them. Okay, so we'll jump to page 26 for the Business and Community Solutions Division. You're going to see an E&E reduction of over $10,000, $776. Core reduction of the Youth Apprenticeship at $1 million. Core reduction of Prospect Business Association at $1 million. And then on page 34, you're going to see an NDI for the Police Bill of Rights at $500,000. This was a governor recommendation. Page.
Okay, I
Yep.
think you just answered it, but I'm going to go ahead and ask. This item was funded 25 as one time, and I think you just asked why the need was for it to come back in 27.
Yeah, so it was requested in 25 as one time, 26 as one time. So we reduced it, and the governor again made a recommendation at 500,000 instead of the million as was the previous 2 years.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
yes.
Okay. Okay, if you turn to page 41, this is for tourism infrastructure. This is a core reduction of totaling over $40 million. So I'm going to go through each one of those, okay? United Capital Athletics at $1 million, Mid-Missouri Sports Park at $8 million, Gateway Arch Foundation, Park Foundation at $250,000, Urban League of Metro St. Louis at $1 million, and the City of Springfield, $30 million. This was restricted last year. It has been moved to House Bill 17 with restrictions. Okay, if we turn to page 46, this is for the Veterans Grant Program. This is a core reduction of one-time funding for $5 million. Turn to page 100. This is a Main Street transfer of $700,000. This goes with the core reduction on page 108 to the corresponding spending authority for the Main Street Program Fund. Okay, on page 116, this is for Highway MM. This is a core reduction of one-time funding of $6 million. This has also been reappropriated to House Bill 17 for fiscal year 27 and has been restricted. Page 121, Kinlock Demolition. This is a core reduction of one-time funding of $2 million. Page 126. This is the Motec investment. This is a GR transfer for MTC at $2.5 million. It goes with the one on page 128. This is a core reduction for line items within MTC's core for Launch KC and the St. Louis Manufacturing Innovation at $2.35 million. Followed by an NDI on page 135 for MTC's spending authority. So you got a transfer, a reduction, okay. And then page 138, this is the chip semiconductor core reduction funding of $10 million. Page 143, this is API reshoring. The governor recommended $2,415,855. Page 148, semiconductor reshoring. The governor did not recommend this. Page 153, Provalis project renovation. This is a core reduction of one-time funding of $2.5 million. Page 163, this is the Northeast Missouri Regional Planning Commission line item, core reduction of $1 million. But you're also going to see a core reduction of one-time funding for the Hannibal Economic Development Council for $1.5 million and a core reduction of one-time funding for the Boot Hill Regional Planning Commission of $900,000. Page 191. This is an NDI for the Missouri One Start Customized Training Program for a GR transfer of $17,742,835. And this is followed by the corresponding NDI request on page 200 for spending authority out of the Missouri One Start Job Development Fund. This aligns with statute. So this program currently has a direct GR appropriation, but according to statute, this should be a GR transfer into the Missouri Job Development Fund. So this is just realigning it with what statute requires.
Director?
Yes.
With this change that happened, I want you quickly to remind people what Missouri One Start are, so I don't get asked about that later. So think I've been around Missouri One Star. It seems like since I've been here, I don't think it's quite that long, but please remind everybody.
Yes, absolutely.
What that's used for.
Yeah, so Missouri One Start is our premier training program. It's ranked 5th in the nation, something we are extremely proud of. But it's the tool that we use for employees of businesses to upskill, train, recruit, which is huge. We also offer relocation dollars. So this is a very aggressive incentive tool we're able to offer for companies that are moving to Missouri, and then also to train the individual. So we have information we'd be more than happy to share with you on the requests that we've had. The average request we've gotten over the past 4 years has surpassed $30 million. So as you can see, we're almost doubling what we're currently having in the fund. The governor did recommend an increase of $2.5 million, which we really appreciate. We know that the need is out there, and especially as advancements in technology and in companies are choosing to invest in that technology, we want to make sure that the workers are trained on that new technology. So we're truly upskilling them for the opportunities of the future. Okay, if you turn to page 211, this is the strategy and performance division. You're going to see a core reduction of $18,338. On page 218, you're going to see an NDI for hardwood forest products. It's $600,000.
Okay. And now, same question that I had earlier on police bill rights. Item was funded earlier, right? And then it wasn't funded. I think this is a reduction
Correct.
in the original funding for hardwood
So-
products, and it's marketing is what that money is.
Correct.
We believe. You probably better not say believe. That's probably better be only me say believe. It's marketing Missouri hardwoods
Correct.
outside of our state and outside of our nation or not.
Specifically, and we can have the numbers on this too. My understanding is it's to market in Missouri too. So when people have a choice for purchasing wood products, they're choosing Missouri wood products, right? So it is a huge industry within Missouri. So one things we want to make sure we're able to do is help and assist in the marketing of that. Senator, you are correct. It has been in our budget for the past 2 years. This will be the third at a reduced amount. Last year it was vetoed, and that is why it's a new decision item coming forth this year.
Okay. I think as this is to you to pass along with this group doing this work, and we talk about priority-based budgeting, et cetera, are we seeing any benefit? It's going to be something I'm going to be asking about this line item as well.
Yep.
Will there be increased sales? Can anybody prove any kind of increased sales from this marketing?
Yep, we will pass that along.
Thank you.
Yep. If you turn to page 220, this is the broadband grants. This is a core reduction of $21 million and 1 FTE for the federal program. This was a federal program that concluded in December.
Let's take a pause here. Am I the only one that would want to talk to BJ? Because I was going to decide whether he
bring
needed
BJ
to
up.
sit in the seat.
BJ, is it your birthday?
Yeah. Well, I have a couple questions, BJ. So there may be other people as well. So would you introduce yourself? Don't forget to fill out the paperwork. You've been doing that for a long time.
Yes, sir.
But then let's go through 2 or 3 things and let you catch us up where this
Yeah.
is at.
Absolutely. So
Even though we recognize it's federal money, some of us live in places that haven't accessed this internet yet. I still have some smoke signals come from town.
there you go.
And my wife can still read those. And then Morse code takes a while to get that because it's in water waves that we get in the river going by.
There you go. BJ Takesley, the Director of the Office of Broadband. Thanks for having me and the opportunity to just kind of brief on where we are. Director Hadaway's correct. The 42 you see is the NTI BIP program. It construction wrapped up in December, so those projects are now closing out and being finished. We are now in the process of finishing the ARPA funded projects. That was the $260+ million that the legislature funded through the ARPA program.
Does that look like that's going to be spent? You think there's going to be a few dollars that gets rolled over into the formula?
The vast majority of it will be spent.
There's not a lot of money, but there may be a dime or two left to roll
Yes,
over.
we're working directly with those awarded providers. Some of them are closing out today, not today, but in general over the last couple months we've been closing out projects. Some of them are holding on to those funds and not saying, hey, this is exactly how much I have left over, because as customers sign up, there's a cost to connect that customer, and they want to make sure they have grant funds available to help with the construction cost to get to the house. I mean, in rural Missouri, you may have a long drop and it may be thousands of dollars to get it to the door, and therefore some of them are holding on to those funds for right now. But I do think we'll have some funds left over. We're working pretty closely with them on a continual basis. Our grant specialists meet with them on a monthly basis, just checking in, making sure we're going to be completed by the end of this summer, but also checking in on where those funds are available. Part of that ARPA funding was capital projects funds, and capital projects has recently let us know that there may be some flexibility within broadband spending, that if those projects needed to get to an additional location that was nearby, they may be able to utilize some of those funds. It gets complicated because of what I'm going to talk about next, but if that's available, we'll check that flexibility too to make sure we're utilizing as much of the funds as we possibly can. The next thing is the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program. That's the BEAD program. That's the $1.7 billion that we've talked about for several years now. We've been a little bit delayed as we went through a application process. We were awarded or approved in January, just in the last few weeks, sorry, a lot of approvals going on. We were approved in early January for just over $800 million in broadband funding, and that truly is to connect the remainder of Missouri locations that don't currently
Is that
have
an
access.
additional to what we received the first time, or is that 800 is within the beginning dollar amount and we had to go through reapproval to?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is inside of the 1.7 billion. It's the deployment portion of it, and so that's what we're working on today. Yeah, so the BEAD program, we have NTIA approval. We're now going through NIST for approval. We got our first curing yesterday on that, so I think we'll have that by the end of this month.
What's that acronym mean?
National Institute of Standards, I believe. I'm a little tough on, I got a lot of acronyms I try to keep up with.
We have more.
We could compare our list. We have a list when we bring on new employees. It's 5 pages long, I think, of how many acronyms we have. You have a lot when you're looking over all of the departments. I bet yours is bigger. So the BEAD program, we expect approval by the end of this month, and that puts us into the period of signing agreements with those individual awarded providers. We're working to make sure all the locations are right so that those agreements are 100% accurate, and then those projects move through the permitting process. Because they're federally funded, and this isn't an emergency situation, they have to go through environmental permitting and historic permitting and local permitting before they can actually begin construction. We hope that that's done by the mid to end of this summer. They have done what they can on the federal side to try to expedite that as much as possible. And hopefully we have shovels in the ground and are beginning the actual deployment work by end of this summer and seeing people actually connected with these funds pretty quickly. They have a 4-year time frame to finish the construction projects. If you've heard me speak about
Beginning from when?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. If you've heard me speak about this before, you heard me say this wraps up in 2029. Because of the delay and the reapplication process, we're now saying 4 years from the signed agreement, which is actually 2030 at this point. So it does go a little bit further. It's from the signing of the agreement. So 4 years from the signing of their agreement to finish their construction.
No.
Yeah, Senator.
Senator Bay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is, I'm gonna get into detail. We probably have to talk later.
Yeah.
But who's doing the build out? And are we building out fiber optic? And is it like, are we covering what part of the state? Mostly the rural part of our state, or what?
Yes, great question. So the awards between are directly from us, are from providers who applied through a competitive process. So it is providers that are statewide. There are local providers, electrical cooperatives, telephone cooperatives, big companies you hear of and see advertising every day on television, and some that you don't. We have a few new providers that came on board in some of our most rural areas. So it's a really diverse group. Missouri's lucky in that instance.
Okay.
The Missouri Award includes over 20 different providers, so we're really excited to have a lot of people doing work in a lot of places. Your next question, who's doing the work? Those people either do the deployment themselves or they work directly with subcontractors who actually go out and do the work. Where the money is being spent is the BEAD program was very strict. It was to what they labeled as eligible locations, and that was locations that didn't have access to high-speed internet today. Now, largely that is in rural areas.
Absolutely.
Places are more spread out. It costs more money to get the deployment done. But there are other areas of the state that will surprise you that showed locations eligible for funding. Some of our more populated areas had pockets that didn't have quality service today, and we were able to work with the providers in those areas to award them and get service to those locations as well.
Yeah, because, I'm just saying it's, I worked for telecommunications for 27 years. So I understand. I used to build the circuits in the system. When they used to lay the groundwork, I built the grid.
There you go.
That you followed. So it's very important. And I know in my rural farm in Missouri, I just had, the electric company down there to come lay the fiber optic from the road to the house. Because I got tired of every time I'm going down there, no cell service at all.
There you go.
So, I used to be down there for 2 weeks, no cell service. It was beautiful, peaceful, but, so thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Serpoy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to follow up on that a little bit. So you have a provider out in the rural areas that is either using coax or twisted copper pair or something. And they are then bidding or getting access to this money to expand their network into the more rural areas and for individual drops and things like that for these houses that are so spread out.
Yes, Senator May also asked about the technology. 80+% of ours is funding fiber technology. There's about 16% going to wireless technology. There's about 2% that is using hybrid coaxial, and then the remainder is going to satellite service, low Earth orbit satellite.
So if companies out there, and they're mostly using, like I would assume cable companies are mostly over coax.
A lot of them have switched to using hybrid with fiber also.
So you run a fiber from their SAC box or their RT on out, and so you're.
In
I mean,
most of the cases.
not you. I guess they do that. They get the money, and because they have access to that stuff.
Yes, I say often we don't run any fiber. We just
Right.
help make the funding available to see it happen.
Well, some of this money is it used for the equipment itself, for the throughputs to match what they're because the more traffic you get, the system's only as fast as the slowest spot.
Yes, we can support the deployment, the necessary technology from end to end. We can fund it as if there was nothing in the area or beefing up the service.
So you're buying muxes and IP switches and things like that too.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm just curious going forward. I keep reading about Starlink potentially. I mean, it's kind of like where cable TV was 30 years ago, and nobody saw that in twisted copper pair how potentially obsolete that would be at some point. Is there a thought that in 5 years, all this ground-based stuff could be dead and unneeded with space-based stuff?
Yeah, I think the challenge that low Earth orbit satellite sees today is on the upload side. It can send information very well. What it faces is a capacity problem on the upload side for the most part. The technology is probably getting better. The speeds are always getting better, true.
And they're at 8,000 satellites now headed for Lord knows what.
Yeah, the challenge that they often face is a capacity issue and the upload side. And so I do think that it's going to take a mix of technologies to serve everyone. I think fiber almost has limitless speed, and when we talk about from the Department of Economic Development standpoint, those economic developers are wanting fiber to that location to know they have an endless connection that has less interference from weather or other issues. The other thing to always keep in mind when it comes to the satellite technology is that is not it's a technology that has to be renewed. There have to be new satellites launched, and that is a very expensive issue. Whereas fiber, once it's laid, the connection is there. Fiber, I think, is supposed to last 50+ years.
Well, the fiber's not
satellites
the
do
issue,
take
but in my
more.
experience,
Yeah.
because I used to actually maintain crews and take care of our RTs and multiplexers, the card at the end that has to be updated every 3 or 4 years is the expensive part.
Okay.
Once you get the fiber in the ground, I mean, the multiplexers or the IP switches get very expensive, and as the throughput increases, you've got to keep upgrading them. And I guess these companies, they're on their own going forward. And my fear is the density out there is so little that the monthly fees will not allow those internet companies to keep up with technology without public funds.
I think that's a great question. I think some of the economics of it that I hear in the rural areas is the infrastructure to get to each location outweighs the cards because of, like you said, the
Initially,
distance to each one. Yeah, you're right. It is on them. We don't do continual funding for that. Some of our telephone companies get some support throughout the years because of their relationships with the FCC, but our office doesn't do any of that type of thing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Henderson.
Maybe a silly question, but a quick one just to help me. Is this direct to the house, or like when you say you got a gigabyte county, that means it's available somewhere there, but it may not be all the way to the house? Is this getting the backbone out, or all the way to some of these rural houses that are out there a ways?
This is funding to the individual locations, all the way to the house or business. All right.
Done, because I got one more question.
Okay,
And you want to keep
absolutely.
going.
No,
No.
I'm on your time.
How many of the, I don't remember what it's called, but bidding where my house is at,
Mm-hmm.
how many of those places are left open? And I understand you may be off one or two, but my understanding was there was another attempt to try to get people to bid where I live at. My guess is nobody did it yet, but how many are left open?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And for people listening, my wife wants it for Netflix, and the government cannot pay for my house for Netflix. We'll have to read a book.
So, let's talk about eligible locations. When we started this process, when we studied this 2 or 3 years ago, we were very first starting it, there was 400,000 estimated to be unserved locations across the state. About 200,000 of them were served through other federal programs. That would be the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund and the Connect America Fund by the FCC, and some by USDA. And so some of those were already funded. About just a little less than half of them were funded, and those projects are going on right now as well. So that left the BEAD program with just over 200,000 locations to fund. Now, so I'm filtering this out to get to your answer. We funded almost that many, and so our goal was to get service to every single location. What happened, and in cases where, so the NTIA gave us new direction in June 6th of 2025 to have how we were supposed to bid. And they said that we shouldn't spend too much money on any individual location, talking about the rural location that is very far. And in that case, that's where we oftentimes funded low Earth orbit satellite or fixed wireless to serve those locations. In the issue of low Earth orbit satellite, they're actually tied to that individual location. So the way we're planning to fund them is as they get customers at those individual locations. So if you happen to be funded to get one of the two major low Earth orbit satellite companies, which are both involved in our project, they won't receive funding unless they sign you up as a customer. And that's an incentive to make sure that it's happening and making sure that those rural customers that may think, I'm at the end of the road, there's no way I can ever get service, where actually we are incentivizing them to get service to your location. So there is about 6% of our award, or a little bit more than that, that is funded to low Earth orbit satellite. So maybe not a fixed connection that you see someone doing construction to do. But in addition to that, your question was what's remaining. So I don't consider those remaining at this time. Through the curing process, there were about 11,000 locations across the state. I think it was 11,200 that were removed from our award by the curing process. These are the ones that I consider remaining at this time. And those were because the FCC remapped their locations. And in many cases, your home could show up on a map as a dot, and let's say it was labeled A. When they remapped it, it was labeled B. Well, because of that mapping change, NTIA didn't allow us to fund that location because it wasn't in our original list of locations. Now, this sounds crazy. We went to the mat for it. We fought for it. We showed these examples as, hey, this is a location. It is still a location. It deserves service. NTIA denied our waiver request for those locations. There was another smaller set of locations where a provider had said that they were going to deliver service over the next year, and then they didn't deliver that service. So we were going to fund those locations with BEAD funding, and NTIA said we couldn't because that would be reopening our challenge process. So because of that, you get to the point where there's about 11,000 locations that we weren't able to fund, and we still see as still without funding or service today. Now, the good news about that is we're funding $800+ million worth of projects. Many of these locations are along the path of those projects. And while we're not funding service to that individual location, it very well may receive service adjacent to the funding we're delivering. We don't have any control of that, but many of them will. On the other hand, there are some out there that may not receive service because of this, but in the great scheme of things, we're talking about we went from 400,000 locations in 4 years from now. You know, the belief is we'll be talking about less than 10,000.
Discussion about leftover funds within the BEAD program. Have those
Yeah.
started?
That's a great question. In December, the president put out an executive order that referenced the use of non-deployment funds. That's the terminology used for the non-deployment funds, for the funds not used to deploy broadband, and referenced that and tied it to states not onerously regulating AI technologies. They wasn't defined, but he gave NTIA until mid-March to give us further guidance on both of those, the onerous regulation of AI and the possible uses of non-deployment. And so we are anxiously awaiting, I think it's March 16th, when we will receive further guidance on how states may be able to utilize those non-deployment funds.
Don't forget the form. Thanks.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank BJ for coming today because you guys would not have gotten that level of detail from me.
Thank you, and sorry for taking so much time.
No, I know I'm joking about BJ being here, but in the time that BJ has been, which has just been a couple of years, we've gone from an office of 1 to an office of 20, and we appreciate the partnership with the General Assembly because we do not take this opportunity lightly for Missouri and this amount of funds lightly. We really look at this as a once in a lifetime opportunity to make sure we're deploying broadband correctly across the state of Missouri, and BJ and his team are doing a great job with that. Ready? Okay. Turn to page 226. You'll see a core reduction for the Office of Military Advocate for E&E for $7,439. On page 243, this is our tourism department. You're going to see a core reduction of one-time funding for the statewide Juneteenth celebration at $500,000 and a core reduction of one-time funding for the Kansas City Juneteenth celebration at $250,000. On page 262, this is the Meet Missouri.
Excuse me.
This is a core reduction
Mr.
of.
Chair.
Oh, yes.
Senator Washington?
Why are we reducing?
They're one-time funds.
Okay, but what is your feeling on trying to reinstate some of that Juneteenth funding?
I think we've had a great relationship with the organizations over, Stephen, how many years have we done it?
At least the 9 I've been here.
For 3?
That's true. That's
Right.
true.
But I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think we have a great relationship and have a great process in place, and wouldn't, if that's something that you guys wish to do, wouldn't have any issues with
Yeah,
it.
considering, because we're having the World Cup come, so
Correct.
it's during June, so it could really help with boosting our sales taxes by having that celebration.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. On page 262, Meet in Missouri. This is a core reduction of one-time funding for $1 million. On page 268, this is the Route 66 Commission, a core reduction of one-time funding of $500,000, and then you will
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Senator Washington.
same question. Was it a one-time funding, or why are we, being that this is some big anniversary for Route 66?
Oh, yes.
And tourism seems to be not your department, but this body seems to not understand the importance of tourism, yet we compare ourselves to Florida all the time. What is the rationale behind that?
There's two line items within there. One is one-time funding at $500,000. The addition was a core of $1 million that we're recommending reducing. By the end of this fiscal year, the Route 66 celebration would have ended. So that's why we're recommending the essentially one-time funding recommendation and the core recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. On page 273, World Cup marketing, this is a core reduction of one-time funding for $2 million. Again, still very important. We're promoting like crazy. I hope you guys have seen our social media ads. I'm so proud of the team and what they put together around coming to the World Cup. But we believe we will have that funding spent by the end of this fiscal year. And even though the World Cup will continue into July of the next fiscal year, the marketing will be done for it. And then,
Mr. Chair.
oh yes,
Yeah, could you get me some detailed information on how that marketing has been and what we've done?
yes.
And I'm asking for some pretty detailed stuff, and I want to apologize up front, but what you're doing, time frame on it, and all that kind of stuff, and then I want to so I can kind of compare to what Visit KC is doing as well.
No problem. If we have our director of tourism here. If anyone else has additional questions, we can bring them up, or we can meet one-on-one or provide that information. It's up to you guys.
I don't care, but whether we can meet one-on-one. Tourism loves me. They put me to work. I'm like a free employee of theirs. They make me go
Send
do
her at your
stuff.
decision. Do you want it
Yeah,
on
so
the
I-
microphone, or do
yeah.
you want it in your office?
No, we can do it in my office. That's
Okay.
fine.
No problem. Okay. And then page 283, core reduction of the administrative division for E&E at $8,108. And that concludes Department of Economic Development, unless there's any additional questions.
Send her birthday, or send her Fitzgerald.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Director, for being here. It's not my birthday. My birthday's in May. Ask Lori. She's in the room. She knows my information. But this is somewhat unrelated to the budget, so I'm sorry, but I wanted to ask you publicly because I think it's important for my district and I think around the state, but data centers are kind of a conversation, and I think for rural Missouri, it's a great opportunity for a variety of reasons. But what are we seeing on that? And from your department level, I know you guys are working very intentionally on providing economic development opportunities across the state, but there's several of them going in. There's a Montgomery County one. There's Warren County. I think Callaway County now has a big one right on the highway that's being considered. What should we be telling our constituents when they have concerns about that? And I'm excited about the opportunity. I think it's a tremendous, it has tremendous potential as long as we're ensuring that we're taking care of our environment and all the local community. But could you just give like a high level view of that so I have something I can go back to my constituents and talk to them about?
Yeah, absolutely, Senator. And I think you kind of hit on it with making sure we're taking care of things, right? So we are looking at the data center explosion across the United States, and we are comparing it to the gold rush, right? It is opportunities and where these opportunities can land. We are positioned very well in Missouri for these opportunities because not only our access to water, some of our access to land, but also our access to energy, which is one of the most important things. And I know that Senator Searport championed Senate Bill 3 last year, if I'm remembering correctly. It was 4. See, I knew it was like 3 or 4 in my head, so thank you. 4, which really helped with high ratepayers. And that is something I don't think the general public understands, that the change and what that will do to high users and how they will be paying for the portion, really the large share of that when it comes to electricity. Something I always tell communities and I always tell economic developers, we need to work these data center projects just like we would any other project. We need to make sure, one, it's a good fit for the community, and what's the reward for the community. Just as we would for a manufacturing facility, we need to make sure we're not giving away all of the incentives, all of the opportunities, right? So this should be a give and take where the community is getting a lot out of it. We are actively working the projects in Montgomery and Warren County. So we're very involved in those. I can't go into tons of details because of non-disclosures, but we are seeing other ones pop up within the state that we are not working. One of the things we're currently trying to do is work directly with projects that have end users, because recently we're seeing a lot of developers take opportunities, and when I say opportunities, take up land for the potential of an end user, and there's so many right now that we're trying to focus on the ones that are closer to the finish line with that end user. I will tell you, from what I've seen from the numbers for some of these, especially in rural areas, you were talking about opportunities for school district budgets to double if done correctly. Those are life-changing opportunities for residents of those communities, and I don't think that message is truly being communicated to the residents. So I think it's our job, I think it's the local economic developer's job to make sure we're properly educating on the benefits that are there, that we are educating on the environmentals that are being done, that the due diligence is being done with not only the companies, but making sure that there is a return on investment, not only for the state of Missouri, but also for the communities that are putting that land up.
Yeah, and I just have one more question. Thanks for that information. What are these data centers currently thinking about for energy? Are they mostly all just going to connect to our grid and use the power that's available? Are some of them thinking about creating their own power, having their own gas plants? Like, what are we up against in our own needs on energy? last week we had several days of negative degree temperatures. That really, is hard on the grid for very short periods of time, but short sprints. What are these data sets? Are they all different? They're all probably considering different.
It is. They're
variables?
all different. It's kind of the wild, wild west, and kind of where I would say the end user is looking for technology, right? So from a business perspective, they're looking at where they can go long term with that technology, where it's most cost effective. It also depends on the area of the state that they're going into. But I will tell you that the usage and what we're seeing for not only for it's also data centers, but manufacturing, what we're seeing for the usage for energy is skyrocketed over the past 5 years. And we have data on that we're happy to share.
That'd be great. Yeah, I think I was just wondering, are they going to build their own gas plants because they need the energy? Are they going to build 4,000-acre solar fields? I think there's a variety of different ideas on that. So
Correct. And I think that's where the community has to weigh in and be able to say, hey, this is what we want in our community, or this is what we don't want in our community with regards to what they're planning on doing.
Okay, thanks.
Senator Henderson.
I've got another question because I'm very interested in that too. I think I heard you say that some of these communities, 'cause I live in more of a rural area, they can contact you all and you can help them walk through that. We've got one that's just outside my district that's become a huge controversy with the public. And a lot of these commissioners and mayors and city administrators are kind of overwhelmed, I think, somewhat when these came in. And they can contact you all and you can help them somewhat?
We will be more than happy to educate on what we know. I want to be perfectly clear. I do not believe it's the department's job to we give opportunities for where it can go, where additional businesses can go within the state. I don't think we should be telling communities this what should be going in your. And I'm not saying you're saying that.
That's not what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
you can help give them information.
Correct.
And you can kind of help them see what you've seen in other
Correct.
parts to help them through that process.
Yes, and what we know, right, along those lines, and then we can also connect them to other communities that maybe have done it, and then they can talk internally.
Perfect. I think we're going to see more and more communities that are going to, the local officials going to feel a little bit overwhelmed and they're in the middle, and at least that could be a resource.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Senator
I'm
Norwood.
going to jump on the data center bandwagon of questions because obviously in the Northland of Kansas City we have a lot going on and a lot more to come. So something that was surprising that I heard you say was that in some of the communities that it could actually double the school budget, and based on what I've seen and talked with our school districts has been the opposite of that. So share.
I think
Can you
that
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is where, as a local economic developer, you need to make sure you are providing the best opportunity for your community. So we've seen some creative, I would say, incentives where maybe they'll incentivize, this is an example, maybe they'll incentivize the personal property but not the real property. And then because it's such a large investment in the real property, that money is going directly to schools. You can also stagger in payments that go directly for resources. So we've seen additional projects where they have to make a donation to the school district and so many years. Again, it just kind of depends on what's best for the community.
And I get, it's going to be unique community
Yeah.
by community and what. Is
But I think
going
that's,
forward.
to your point, you need to be at a local level. They need to be engaging with their school district.
Of
They
course.
need to be asking, what do you need? How can we help you? We have this amazing opportunity. I mean, when you're talking about a $2-3 billion
Yeah.
investment, the community should be benefiting from it.
Can you, and I'm sure you all have, and I probably could find it fairly quickly, remind us in terms of incentive packages from the state. I mean, this started, 2015, I think, was the first bill that we passed, and then we have done some updates. Obviously, Senate Bill 4 had some other things in it, just in terms of the incentive packages that are available.
For data centers? Yes. So there's one specific program that is a data center sales tax exemption program. It is a statutory program.
And it's the sales tax on all of the materials,
Equipment that's purchased, yes. Hmm.
the equipment that's purchased to construct the data center.
And the refresh of the data center. It lasts
Changing out the software and all
Correct,
of those things.
correct. And that is something that, I think that was, I'm looking at Brooklyn, 2015, was that 2015? Yeah, so
Governor.
2015 when that was passed. And we've seen some data centers take advantage of it, and we've seen some that haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Any closing comments, Director?
just thank you guys for what you're doing, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to come educate on what we do.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great job, Michelle. Great. That was terrific. And BJ.